So this video will start the series of my Anterior Sling series on YouTube, but this is also going to be part of the RPR exercise course where we teach very specific things to fix problems with exercises and help with pain and many other things. But today in this lesson, we're going to talk about the Triphasic Thoracic Tuck Method, which I just found in the last few months, tested it, hundreds of athletes, and just to confirm that I was right with everything. And it's actually a pretty scary finding. And then how it's played in my education and then also my evolution of the program. So the next slide we're going to is basically I'm going to give you a little history on how I stumbled upon it, tested these methods. And what happened was I basically saw movement at high velocities from some of my elite, highly trained Olympians, I should say, and that had been with me a number of years, where compensation patterns were taken out. They were optimally getting their best results, and the body wasn't compensating. There was a lot of things going on, and they were moving a certain way, and I just kind of picked it up. So, and I knew it kind of existed, but there were some timing things that just brought this to fruition now. So what I found with the thoracic tuck method is a connection between the thoracic spine and the contralateral psoas. So the thoracic spine, let's say on your right side, which I'll get detailed in here later, will help stabilize and contract the contralateral psoas, so the left psoas. Okay, so your right shoulder is connected to the left hip flexor, which we kind of knew, but I found how it is connected, because if we undo that connection and unstabilize it, then the hip flexor is not working, at least if it's originally not optimized. If it's optimized through RPR prior to doing these tests, then the tests don't work. So, and again, this is the Triphasic Thoracic Tuck Method, and what I have here is the real core. Okay, I know many books have been wrote about on the TVA and the abdominals and training the core, and that's what everybody talks about. The real core is the hips and the spine. Folks, the spine, this whole thing, drives almost everything, and that actually sets on the hips. It's not the abs, it's not the front. This is the real core. All the other stuff people talk about actually have probably caused problems by focusing on it too much. I can give you examples later in this video of how focusing on the transverse abdominis and too much can cause problems. The spine is the key here, folks. So this is the real core. I can give you examples, and I could teach a whole course on the things that the secondary core, if it's the primary focus, screws up. So I don't think this video was able to come up, but what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how I stumbled upon this. So what we have here is somebody on the table, and I found somebody with a psoas that was off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Soaz test, and they fail. So if you're an RPR coach, you know he cheated a little bit, but he still failed. Okay, so I'll show that again. They're essentially doing a Soaz test, and he fails. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is, long story short, is I'm going to teach this person here basically what I want to do if I'm testing the left psoas and I want the left psoas to work, is I'm showing how to do the thoracic tuck. So basically I'm trying to pull this shoulder forward, okay? And I want to pull it not from the abs. This is the mistake. I put my hand under here because I want it from his thoracic area. And so he's pulling the shoulder up and forward, the right shoulder, not the left. I'm sorry, the left shoulder on this video. He is pulling up with his lower thoracic, pulling it forward. This will lock in the other psoas. Now remember, on a standard test, he was shut off. He's like a 1 or a 2. So I'm basically teaching him how to hold that position on the table. And what you'll get is a locking of the psoas. He's even cheating a little bit still. We know this, but we knew his psoas was off because I checked him prior to this. But just by locking in his thoracic area to pull his shoulder forward. Look, the shoulder doesn't even have to move. The shoulder does not even have to move. You just need the intention from the thoracic area to tighten down. And then this psoas locks in. And I'll give you plenty of examples following this in videos here. So, but what you have is it locks in. Now, I believe I told him to release everything in that, and he can't hold it. Okay, so basically what I told him is to release everything, just try to hold the psoas, just showing you how powerful locking in the thoracic tuck method was. So I had him do it, and he locks it in, heads off the table, cheat a little bit with his jaw for all you level 2 jaw people. And this was the first scenario I ran and realized that that thoracic stability locking in was very important. So we'll go to the next thing, which would be a standing version of this. So what we have here is basically a so you can see there, I just basically had him, I tried to do the test on him, and he fails. As we knew, he just got off this table over here. So then I'm going to coach him up. I'm going to put my hand where he should be pulling his shoulder forward. His left shoulder should be slightly rotated, pulled forward. He can keep his head in the right position. This is the first time doing this. So then he locks in, and I can't move his psoas. This is just showing you the reaction in everything that locks in. So let me show you why this is important. Again, so I think I'm making a big point here where you're pulling your sternum down forward, your shoulder just slightly forward. The sternum forward has a lot to do with many running drills, but you pull it forward, not from the abs. This is, again, a mistake. You pull it forward from the thoracic area. So these are the coaching points for this video. The next thing I'm going to get you to is one of my Olympians completing this drill. Let's see. Let's go back one little bit. Okay, let's see if I can get the right spot. There we go. Here we go. So if you can implement that thoracic tuck, you can then get the hip flexor to fire optimally. Okay, now I don't know if this is something I would overcoach the thoracic tuck. You want to clear all the things, which I'll talk about at the end, so that they actually do this naturally. It should naturally happen, and it does happen naturally a lot. The biggest thing I would say is when you watch somebody run, and if they're falling apart in their upper body, if they're literally falling apart in their upper body, which was brought to me by Chris Corfus, and this is how this all ties in. He videoed a bunch of athletes, and they were falling apart in their upper body. These were the slowest kids in a state track meet. And this is the two main factors that he found was their upper bodies falling apart. These are important KPIs, key performance indexes. Upper body was falling apart. They would not hold this position as she's holding, even in this one-off drill from running. And she's about a 6 foot plus Olympian, about 175 pounds. And for somebody to move like this as a female, better than most of my males was my point. Not that females can't move like this, but she moves better than most of my males. You can see the split in her. You can see one of the key performance indexes that Chris found was the spring heel flip. And we talk about it in our course. I'll give you the name of the course right after this slide. But the point is as she's doing this drill, her forward shoulder in her thoracic activates to pull her hip flexor through on this drill, in the same as it does in gait and in running. Even though her arm's back, the tension is pulled forward. Her thoracic pulls the shoulder slightly forward. Maybe it doesn't even move, but the tension activates so this opposite hip flexor turns on. And it's a pretty amazing drill. So if this isn't working, let's say they're tilted backwards when they're doing this drill, they will not get this lift on the front end either, because the hip flexor is not uh, pulling the leg forward, and it'll never get to this top position, because then if the hip flexor is not doing its job that it's supposed to, the abs get involved, and then you'll never get this height, so the foot would be lower at push off. And that is one common thing that you'll see in this drill. So this is my straight leg prime times, a very effective tool in the right patterning on the posterior chain, but also as a great indicator something on the anterior chain's not working. So I'll just let this run more time. It's pretty magical. Yep. There's the clinic, the Revolutions in Speed Training we filmed at Minneapolis this summer. There's some key performance indexes that Chris Korfus has found during COVID that I also built weight room stuff around, and it's pretty amazing some of the things that people are getting out of this course. So now this is one of the most advanced, I call it the Uri, but it's a standing horizontal hip thrust banded. There's a version of this. I have a coaching video on this on all three positions of the foot. The foot's here, it's sometimes the foot's here, and the foot's here. So, but this also happens in this drill. Okay, it's about to happen right there. So as this leg, the left leg, gets pulled forward, the shoulder, the thoracic tuck, what you'll have here, if people use this thoracic tuck, they will hit optimal positions in this drill. Okay, it is pretty amazing that this drill, the way they finish, if they're using thoracic tuck. If they're falling apart, especially in the upper body, even though they're holding on to stuff in this drill, they will not be able to get to the final position. Now, this is the best, and I talk about this drill in our speed clinic there. The Uri is by far the best transfer of training in top end speed running I've ever seen from the weight room. And actually, I talk about, you don't even need this rack setup. So there's a band here. I have coaches, former assistants of mine, that we're setting this up out on the field where they'd hook bands around the athlete, and they'd pull into a fence or just a bar or just a post, and then they do it on the side, because you actually only need to hook to that hand to one side of the post. The other side you actually don't need. So that's just an amazing tool here. But this is where this actually helps. Now, high speed running, his right leg's back, just push off, and then you notice his left arm is back. But trust me, thoracic spine has locked in to pull this shoulder slightly forward. You can see, I would argue it's a multiple aspects. The shoulder's pulled forward from the thoracic spine to activate the psoas, and also cause a slight stretch reflex to move the arm back really fast, because he's running really fast, Justin Gatlin. Obviously, if you don't think he's running really fast, you check his numbers. The next thing, this is a great exercise. So you can watch this athlete do this exercise, and while you're doing that, what's going to happen if they don't lock that thoracic in to stabilize here? This leg slows down. So what you can do in a quick experiment is have them do that. Don't lock the shoulder in. Actually have them retract the shoulder backwards, and then count the number of reps they get in 10 seconds. Then give them a little rest, come back, do the thoracic tuck method. And you might see a roughly 20 to 30% increase in the number of reps. Folks, that's just function. This is high speed function. This is not function on a table, which sometimes is good, sometimes doesn't transfer. This is high speed function. And I'm telling you, this is the best way to measure these types of things. And this is what I try to measure, is high speed function in all, whether something's working or not. So there's an excellent exercise. Okay, now for people watching this video, level 1 RPR fixes. And look, this doesn't mean this is going to improve it always. What really some of these fixes do, they actually take away the compensation pattern. So level 1 fixes, you'd address the psoas, you'd address the jaw, because the jaw's attached to the abs, as we know, if you're level 1 certified, and then obviously the quad to clear the compensation. You don't want the quad working in these drills. You just want to stop the quad from working so much, so you address the quad level 1 RPR. Level 2, you would address the primary neurological compensation pattern for the jaw, because the jaw is going to activate the abs, okay, if you're trained in level 2, so that then you're not going to actually involve the compensation pattern. Same thing for the primary compensation pattern if you're a quad driver, for the primary compensation pattern. And then level 3, you're going to do the TVA reset, actually the cross-sectional. And then you're going to turn on the upper psoas, the lower psoas, which we cover in level 3, and all of the quad resets. Okay, these are the fixes for the thoracic to improve the thoracic tuck function. These are things that I'll see in training that I'll fix and have done a crazy great job. So, for example, the upper psoas, if in the drill right here, if she can't get that split that we want right there, as high as we want, we'll go here.